Hello everyone. So I'm back with my new topic, that's organizational development. So this also has been included in your new syllabus. So there are really high chances of getting the questions from this topic as well. So let's first try to understand what the organizational development means. Organizational development is a critical and science-based process that helps organizations build their capacity to change and achieve greater effectiveness by developing, improving, and reinforcing strategies, structures, and processes. So this is actually a definition by Cummings and Wardley, and this definition has few elements. Let me just, make you understand all the elements of this definition. First, it says that it is a critical and science-based process. So what does this mean? Organizational development is an evidence-based and structured process. So it's not about just trying something out and seeing what happens, but it's about using scientific findings as input and creating a structured and controlled process in which assumptions are tested. So it's about testing if the outcomes reflect the intention of the intervention. Now the second element of this definition is that a build capacity. So how it helps in building the capacity is that to change and achieve the greater effectiveness. So organizational development is aimed at organizational effectiveness. So it therefore has a number of outcomes. So this can differ between organizations, but usually they do include financial performance, customer satisfaction. There is an organizational member engagement and an increased capacity to adapt and renew the organization. So these are not always clear cut. Sometimes it's about building a competitive advantage in whichever way that is defined. So the second element is that developing, improving, and reinforcing strategies, structures, and processes. So how it helps in developing, improving, and reinforcing the strategies. This part of this definition, it says that the organizational development applies to change in strategy. It applies change in structure or processes. So this implies a system approach where we focus on an entire organizational system. So this can include the full organization, one or more locations, or a single department. Organizational design has become more crucial over time now, and today's world is characterized by VUCA. You know, VUCA is where V is volatility, U is uncertainty, C is complexity, and E is ambiguity. So the VUCA world requires new agility from organizations, and organizational development is the means to that end. Globalization leads to a much bigger interconnectedness and opens up organizations to worldwide. So we can say that the organizational development is the study of successful organizational change and performance. And it was Kurt Lewin who is, considered as the founding father of the organizational development. Organizational development as a practice, it involves in an ongoing and systematic process of implementing effective organizational change. So it's both, we can say, a field of applied science focused on understanding and managing the organizational change, and a field of scientific study and inquiry. So organizational development, we can say, is an objective based approach. It has an objective based approach to systems that change within an organization. So it also enables the organizations to build and sustain a new desired state for the entire organizations. And it can be achieved through either a changed communication process or supported by software applications. And in order to understand the culture, organizational culture, and to evaluate the positives and the negatives of the working environment, and evaluation method is very must. Now we'll just try to see the role of the organizational development. Its role is to place an emphasis on humanistic values, and its also role is to increase the levels of trust, which is very important among the members, and its role is to increase an enthusiasm at all levels, or you can say that its role is to increase the self and group responsibility in planning. We can also say that its role is, to effectively manage the conflict. So its role is very important as far as the organizational development, the whole teamwork, the whole process, this whole developmental process is concerned. Now, there are, 7 steps in the organizational development, and these steps, I'll just tell you first the steps in the organizational development, and there are 7, as I told you. And first is an initial diagnosis, then it's data collection, then it's data feedback, then planning strategy, then it's intervening, then it's team building, and then finally evaluation. So let's now discuss all these steps one by one in detail. So first step is the initial diagnosis of the problem. So this is the first step. So the management here should try to find out an overall view of the situation to find the real problem, right? So here, what the top management should meet and the consultants and the experts to determine the types of program that's needed. So it is the first stage, and it's only in the first stage that the consultants will meet various persons in the organizations, and they'll try to interview them to collect some information. So the first step whole, revolves around in collecting the information and collecting the data. Our second step is the data collection. So in this stage, in this particular step, the consultants will make, the surveys to determine the climate of the organization and the behavior, problems of the employees. That's very important in this particular step. And here the consultants will meet the groups of people away from their work environment to try to get some answers to the questions like they can ask them what specific job conditions contribute most to their job effectiveness, or they may ask what kind of conditions interfere with their job effectiveness, or what changes would they like to make in the working of the organizations. So this is how the data is collected in organizational development. Now the next step is data feedback and confrontation. Here, the data which has already been collected in the previous step, that's in step number 2. Now this data will be given to the work groups who will be assigned the job of reviewing the data. So here the data uh, is going under a reviewing process while the experts will review the data. And any area of disagreement will be mediated among themselves only, and priorities will be established for a change. So this is how the data feedback and confrontation works in organizational development. Now our next step is, that's the fourth step, is planning strategy for change. In this step, the consultants will suggest the strategy for change. This is very important. And they will attempt to transform diagnosis of the problem into a proper action plan involving the overall goals for change, determination of basic approach for attaining these goals, and the sequence of detailed scheme for implementing the approach. So a proper planning strategy is very important for bringing about the change. So this is the planning strategy for change. Now our next step, that's step number 5, is intervening in the system. Intervening in the system refers to a planned programmed activities during the course of an organizational development program, and these planned activities bring certain change in the whole system, which is the basic objective of organizational development. But there may be various methods through which the external consultant intervene in the system, such as education and laboratory training, process consultations, team development, and so on. So this is how in the intervening in the systems happens in the organizational development. So a proper planning is very important. Now the next step is team building. During the entire process, the consultants they start encouraging the groups to examine how they work together. So encouragement is very must to let the members know how they can work together. So the consultants here will educate them about the value of free communication and trust as essential for group functioning. So the consultants can have team managers and their subordinates as well to work together as a team in organizational development sessions to further encourage team building. So, there are, following the development of the small groups, there may be development among the larger groups comprising the several teams. This is how team building works in an organizational development. Now, our last and final step is evaluation. Organizational development is a very long process, so there is a great need for careful monitoring to get the precise feedback regarding what is going on after the program starts. So this will help actually in making suitable modifications whenever necessary. And for evaluation, organizational development program, the use of critic sessions, appraisal of change efforts, and we can also say comparison of pre and post training behavioral patterns are quite effective. So now all the steps in the organizational development, they are part of the whole process. So all of them need to be applied if the firm expects, to get the full benefits of the organizational development. And an organization which applies only a few steps, leaves the others, will be disappointed with their results. So this was all about the organizational development and the steps of the organizational development process. So I'll see you next week, inshallah, with a new topic. Till then, take care and stay safe.